God dang it. I've been so caught up with making films for other people and school that I just don't have time to make videos anymore. But I promise more videos will be on the way. It's going to happen at one point. At one point, I'm going to be posting videos on a regular basis. Just for now, it's not happening. That being said, let me make it up to you just by posting a bunch of movie reviews in one video. 1, 2, 3, go!
Bill, if you'll come with me, you'll float too. You'll float too. You'll float too. You'll float too. You'll float too.
Oh yeah! Prior to seeing this movie, everyone started getting very excited for this movie, and I was actually oblivious as to why, and I still am. My guess is because the TV miniseries was good, or the book was very good, or people just really like Stephen King, or something. Despite that, I had a really good time with this movie. The acting was pretty good, especially from the kid actors and Bill Skarsgård. The kids did a really good job at acting like actual kids. They also have a lot of fun banter which created levity in the midst of all the horror that was going on in this movie. My favorite was Eddie, who was played by Jack Dylan Grazer. He did a great job of being the loudmouth but not being annoying. From a performance like this, you would expect it to be very annoying, but it's actually very well done. Bill Skarsgård was also terrifying in a few moments. He wasn't as good as Tim Curry, even though I haven't even seen the Tim Curry version. I just know Tim Curry would do better because
I'm escaping to the one place that hasn't been corrupted by capitalism. Space!
regardless, Bill Skarsgård was a lot of fun to watch, and you could tell that he was having a blast whenever he was on screen. Now on to the things I didn't like. I didn't like the stupid jump scares in this movie, as well as a bunch of sound design choices. Some jump scares worked, but the ones that didn't, the music in the background would blast its way to 11 and it just started getting frustrating and obnoxious. One scene that could have ended up great was the garage scene. I know everyone loves this scene or whatever, but there's one thing that kinda ruined it. It kept jump cutting to black and it ended up looking like a trailer for a movie. How am I supposed to be terrified if it keeps cutting to black? Honestly, it gave me Suicide Squad flashbacks, which is the last thing I want from a movie.
This is worse than one Trump won.
To be fair, there are some pretty genuine scares and eerie imagery that end up keeping people up at night, like the meat house and the bloodbath scene. But as far as I'm concerned, the genuine scares evenly weigh the crappy jump scare ones, so I can't really call this movie great. When watching the movie again, the movie seemed to scare me less, even though when watching it both times with my friend Elijah, he seemed to be more scared than the first time. However, I did enjoy this movie and I will go see the sequel, so I'm giving this movie a 7 out of 10. Let me preface Mother by saying I'm not a really big fan of Darren Aronofsky. Not that I find his films pretentious, but they're not really my cup of tea. For example, Requiem for a Dream is a great movie and I'd highly recommend it, but I have a hard time relating to it because I've never been in the situation of any of the characters in the film. Another example, Black Swan is another great movie, but I've already seen Whiplash and loved that movie, and I found Black Swan a less relatable version of Whiplash, even though I know Black Swan came out before Whiplash. Again, his movies aren't really for me, and I know he has his own audience. So with all that out of the way, Mother is a rather difficult film. On one hand, it's very heavy on its symbolism. On the other hand, some people are going to take offense to this movie, even if they're not Christian. Well, I'm Christian, so people would think I'm offended by this movie, but I'm not really. I wasn't even offended by Aronofsky's previous film, Noah, but I don't really like this film. Again, I wasn't offended by it, but I found the third act of the movie rather obnoxious. The first 2 acts of this movie aren't too bad, but I wouldn't say it's great. They basically remade the first few chapters of Genesis into a modern day adaptation. But the third act, it honestly reminded me of any Transformers action sequence, but instead of robots, it's actual human beings. It wasn't that I was disturbed by the movie, it's just that I found the movie trying way too hard to be disturbing. So I guess I would call this movie pretentious. I know a lot of people are going to love this movie for its symbolism and its presentation. I didn't. I could find myself recommending this film, but it would be once in a blue moon, and I'm giving it a 4 out of 10. Kingsman: The Golden Circle is the most disappointing movie I've seen all year. If you want to hear my brief opinion on the first movie, it's a fun spy movie. But this movie is just kind of boring. I was actually liking the movie for the first 20 minutes. It starts off with an exciting car chase and it sets up the plot nicely. I was liking how over the top the villain was and the idea that there's an American version of the Kingsman, but by the time the movie was done setting up everything, the movie doesn't really go anywhere. I honestly don't remember a whole lot from this film besides the stupid cliches that I won't get into because spoilers. But let's just say they involved the two characters that had the most potential. But the cliche that isn't a spoiler is that this movie suffers from sequelitis. By the end, I can see some people saying that this is a dumb, fun, action, guilty pleasure movie. So at least I can recommend it. The action sequences and the cinematography were really cool. But otherwise, I can only see myself putting this movie on the background if I'm hanging out with my friends or something. 5 out of 10. American Made is very fun. More fun than I expected it to be. This movie makes me more excited for the upcoming Chaos Walking, which is my most anticipated movie of 2019. Both American Made and Chaos Walking are directed by Doug Liman and written by some guy named Gary Spinelli. I hope that's how you pronounce his name, but it's probably not. For American Made, I really like the overall style the film was going for. It feels like an 80s retro documentary with some very fun plane sequences. Interestingly enough, Tom Cruise did all the flying himself, which really shows how much of a physical actor he is. Speaking of Tom Cruise, he's finally playing as an actual character rather than, I'm Tom Cruise and I'm in an action movie. Sure, I liked him in Edge of Tomorrow, but I still got the feeling that Tom Cruise did the movie because it was an action movie. Tom Cruise in American Made is a blast to watch. It kind of felt like Tom Cruise was playing as Tom Cruise, but it wasn't Tom Cruise playing as, I'm Tom Cruise and I'm in an action movie. We all know how much he loves to do his own stunt work, and it kind of felt like his excitement for stunt work carries onto the movie's protagonist Barry Seal's excitement for flying. Another performance I really liked was Sarah Wright as Lucy Seal. Usually the wife character in biopics are kind of throwaway characters because biopics only want to acknowledge the fact that the real life person had a wife and that's it. For example, War Dogs. I really like War Dogs. I really liked Arna Diaz in Blade Runner 2049, but Arna Diaz in War Dogs didn't do much. However, in this movie, Sarah Wright's performance was funny and witty, and the movie actually writes her up to be a character you should give a damn about. If I had any problems with the movie doesn't really know how to start or end, and seeing how this is a biopic, I can imagine how hard that would be. However, I still had a very fun time watching this movie. Of course, this movie isn't great, but I still had a great time watching, so I'd give it a 7 out of 10. Watching Stranger Things right now with breakfast and Three Musketeers. Like, comment, subscribe if you get the reference. So that's all the movies I saw in September. I don't know if I'll be posting my review of Blade Runner 2049, but let's just say I loved it. If I do make a video on it, it'll be up by next week. If not, just don't expect it at all. I'll definitely post my review for Thor Ragnarok, so stay tuned for that. I'm also working on more films. You know, that's been a regular thing for me. I've been working on about 5 films ever since like September. And so like now I'm just like a little bit drained out, but at the same time like I gotta push through another film and then another film and then another film. And yeah, it's really tough for me, but I'm really trying. I'm really trying to make more films and videos at the same time and do school at the same time and get a job and like everything. Why is everything gotta be so dang difficult?